Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you the news that relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Yeshua Hawkins. Katan, we're going to continue our coverage with the war in Iran. U.S. and Israel continuing their bombing campaign, striking Iran in certain of their facilities. We'll talk about that. Also, how it's affecting the oil prices and even the other countries that are now being in close proximity, are now getting involved in that war, or at least suffering some of the damages from the war that's taking place. Well, first we're going to start off, though, with a couple words from President Donald Trump. At a public meeting engagement, President Trump made this announcement saying, "I'm pleased to report that earlier today, the International Energy Agency agreed to coordinate the release of a record 400 million barrels of oil from various national petroleum reserves around the world, which will substantially reduce the oil prices as we end this threat to America and this threat to the world."
Now, the president continued with the question asking the audience, quote, "We don't want to leave early, do we? Huh? We've got to finish the job, right?" Expressing the need, of course, for this war and the effects that will be felt worldwide.
But will tapping into these reserves make a big enough difference to bring oil prices down? Well, some analysts would argue that releasing these reserves won't have any effect on oil prices. Well, take a look at this next video to find out more.
400 million barrels of oil. That's how much the International Energy Agency is releasing from its strategic reserve to alleviate the oil shortage caused by the Strait of Hormuz shutdown. This is the largest strategic reserve release in history, and yet the stock market fell and oil prices stayed high. The Dow closed down more than 200 points today. I want to bring in CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady to explain what's going on here. Kelly, tell us more about this oil release and what does it really mean for the oil supply and oil prices?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, it's the largest in history, 400 million barrels. And for reference, the IEA has about 1.2 billion in their strategic reserves. So it's a significant portion of that overall amount. You would have expected, though, to see oil prices drop on this news, but in fact, they ticked up ever so slightly. And the reason is that this was likely already baked in. If you go back to Monday, we saw these huge swings. It was like a $40 swing in terms of the price of oil. It almost went up to 120, and then it kind of came back around under 90. It's been hovering anywhere between $85 to $90 a barrel the last couple of days. And so when it decreased, partly oil traders were counting on the IEA to release to tap the strategic reserves. So yes, this does help with supply. It injects barrels of oil into the market. But when it comes to the price, this was already factored in. And so also, if you do the math, you think about it, 400 million barrels of oil, it is a lot. I am definitely emphasizing that. But you mentioned the Strait of Hormuz, roughly 15 to 20 million barrels of oil will pass through that on the daily basis. And of course, it hasn't been able to do that because it's dangerous now. And so if you do the math out, that's only about 25 to 26 days of supply that is being disrupted when you look at that 400 million. So when I've been talking to oil analysts, they're saying, we're expecting this conflict to drag on at the moment. And so that's also why you're not seeing those oil prices come down, because they're weighing a significant release, but it's just not going to be enough based on what things are looking like in terms of length and the fact that those tankers are still being attacked.
Wow, you think 400 million barrels of oil is a big number in the way it kind of is, but less than a month's supply. That just goes to show how heavily dependent all the world is on oil.
Absolutely. Quite a consumption rate for oil. And again, like you said, that 400 million, you'd think that that would at least get us through several months, not even a month.
That's right. Well, after the war with Iran began, Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz, which is a major shipping route for oil and gas to the rest of the world. Well, since then, things have, of course, heated up in the waterway, and now the latest from UK Maritime Trade Operations Center is that 3 commercial ships have been hit by unidentified objects. Now, it's also known that Israel and Iran are also bombing targets in the strait.
Well, why is this such a big deal? Well, 20% of all global oil supplies are moved through the waterway. So it's a major transport route to get much needed oil as well as other commodities to the rest of the world. And Iran blames the United States for the current security situation there right now.
Wow. Well, the U.S. is taking responsibility for destroying 16 Iranian vessels near the strait and warns if Iran continues to block it, they will face grave consequences. Well, last week, President Trump said the U.S. Navy will start escorting tanker ships, but the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, speaking at a press conference, revealed a different story.
Well, General Dan Kane said, quote, "If tasked to escort, we'll look at the range of options to set the military conditions to be able to do that. Like we always do with every potential mission. We come to the Secretary and the President with both. What are the resources required? What is the command and control required? And what are the risks? And how do we mitigate those risks?" So really, Katan, it seems as if what General Kane is saying is that the Navy hasn't taken any steps to start escorting those ships in the strait as of yet, but they will if, of course, asked to do so.
Right. But let's get back, of course, to what occurred with these 3 commercial ships. Well, these were all separate attacks, but around the same area, which was off the coast of the UAE. Now, one was a cargo ship, one was a container ship, and the third was a bulk carrier, which of course carries unpacked dry goods like coal or grain. Well, a fire resulted on the cargo vessel after being hit by the projectile. And of course, the crews of each ship were evacuated by lifeboats and are known to be safe at this time.
Investigations are underway, but it isn't clear exactly what took place. Now, these attacks did come after the U.S. warned that Iran might use Navy mines as part of their tactics to make the Strait of Hormuz almost impossible to navigate. However, the U.S. also admitted there is no evidence of that being done. Nevertheless, the U.S. used that reasoning for their attacks on the 16 ships around the strait that they could be used to plant mines.
Interesting. Well, the war officially began with Israel and the U.S. launching joint strikes on Iran on the 28th of February. Well, since then, it has been a tit for tat with consequences on all sides. But other countries are also getting dragged into the conflict, as so often occurs with war. Now, this next video will take us through the course of the last few weeks as things have played out. Please pay close attention.
On the 28th of February, the US and Israel launched joint strikes on Iran. Since then, more than 100 cities have been attacked and at least 1,300 people have been killed, including Iran's supreme leader. Iran was quick to retaliate, launching thousands of strikes towards Israel. One of the deadliest attacks was on the city of Beit Shemesh. But Iran also launched near simultaneous attacks on countries in the region hosting US bases. These are the countries that have been affected so far, and the missile interceptions are still taking place. Some of the attacks have hit US embassies, oil refineries, and even hotels. Then, on the 2nd of March, Hezbollah decided to attack Israel in response to the killing of Iran's supreme leader. And of course, Israel retaliated. The violence has sparked widespread displacement across Lebanon. On the same day, Cyprus reported that a British airbase had been attacked. Several European countries have decided to send naval assets to Cyprus following that attack. Then, on the 4th, Turkey said that NATO air defense systems had downed an Iranian missile that was heading into its airspace. The same day, the US said a submarine had sank an Iranian warship off the coast of Sri Lanka, killing more than 80 people on board. The ship was taking part in a military exercise in India and was heading back to Iran. Then, on the 5th, Azerbaijan became the latest country to be dragged into the conflict. Officials said drones had fallen near an international airport. 1 week on, what's clear is that the US and Israeli assault on Iran has spread far across the region.
Katan, the video shows a great overview of the things that have taken place leading up to this war and how the last few weeks have gone. But now we're going to continue with the ongoing conflict with Iran. And Israel is getting bombarded throughout the land as far south as Beth Shemesh, creating havoc and damage everywhere Iranian and Hezbollah missiles strike. Now, in many of these rural areas, sirens did not even go off. Many Israelis are frustrated with that issue as there's very little, if any, warning to give people time to get to shelters. Contrary, of course, to the promise that the Israeli government gave concerning them doing what they need to do to keep the citizens safe.
Well, this next video, of course, focuses on the spread of the Iranian conflict beyond just Iran and Israel. Like we said, many other countries are being dragged into this war. And of course, those countries are also reaping the consequences of this war due to their association with the United States. Well, let's take a look for more information.
The conflict in West Asia is now in its dangerous new phase. What started as strikes between Israel, United States and Iran has now fully spilled onto the Gulf countries. Iran's missiles and drones are now reaching two of the region's most powerful countries, which is Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Here's a report with the latest developments unfolding in the region.
The war in West Asia is no longer limited to one front. The shockwaves are now hitting the Gulf. From the glittering skyscrapers of Dubai to the oil fields of Saudi Arabia, Iranian missiles and drones have pushed the region into a new phase of the conflict. Air defense systems are firing through the night. Sirens are echoing across cities that were once seen as the safest in the region. And even when missiles are intercepted, the fear is very real. Dubai, a city known for luxury, tourism and global business, is suddenly shaken by the sound of explosions in the sky. Nighttime footage of Dubai's skyline showed bright streaks of missile interceptions cutting across the dark sky. Authorities say multiple ballistic missiles and dozens of drones were intercepted over the Emirates. But even successful interceptions can cause damage. Debris from a destroyed missile fell near buildings along Dubai's busy Sheikh Zayed Road on the 12th of March. Gulf defense systems, many of them supported by American technology, have been working non-stop to end the threats. But the scale of the attacks is staggering. Hundreds of drones and missiles have been fired across the region, turning Gulf skies into a battlefield. In Saudi Arabia, the targets are even more critical. Iranian drones have reportedly targeted key oil facilities and infrastructure. One of the incidents involved the Ras Tanura refinery, one of the largest oil processing facilities on Earth. The drone strike on the 4th of March sparked fires and forced emergency responses at the site. In Saudi Arabia, falling debris from intercepted projectiles has hit residential areas. Homes have been damaged, civilians have been killed and injured. In the UAE, shattered windows and shockwaves from interceptions have caused damage in parts of Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Many of those caught in the middle are migrant workers, people who came to the Gulf seeking opportunity. The past 2 weeks have left a deep scar on West Asia, which will take a long time to heal.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot that takes place in the Middle East, and Dubai is really kind of one of those hot spots where people go to vacation. A lot of people move businesses there, you know, and it's kind of like an adult playground in the Middle East, kind of like the Las Vegas of the Middle East. But no place is left untouched when it comes to these types of conflicts.
Right, a lot of tourism there, so that's certainly going to hurt that, at least in the short term, if the war continues.
That's right.
Well, as Trump demands the surrender of Iran, as well as having a hand in selecting its next leader, casualties of war have been ticking upward in Iran, with reports of over 1,300 victims, according to the Red Crescent. Now, reports from local authorities in Iran have surfaced that a girls' school was struck, killing 150 students in the attack.
Well, west of Iran and north of Israel, Lebanon has been suffering heavy damage in its capital city of Beirut due to continuous and strategic strikes from Israel. Well, the reason for Israel's campaign on its northern neighbor? Well, their goal is to take out Hezbollah, a goal that they said they'll continue even after the war with Iran ends.
Israeli Brigadier General Efi Defrin said Hezbollah and the Iranian regime are one in the same. Now, the Lebanese government must get rid of Hezbollah and the Revolutionary Guard as they operate on its territory. If they won't, we will chase and attack them. Now, the IDF recently ordered the entire southern region of Lebanon to head north to the Litani River. Now, even in Beirut, hundreds of thousands of families have been forced to flee their homes with nothing but the clothing on their backs.
Well, many of those who have been forcefully displaced sleep in their cars, on the streets, and even on the beach, wherever they can to find a safe and comfortable place. Well, the conflict there has left many homeless in its wake.
Well, America's most feared and powerful bombers have received permission now to stage in the UK, preparing to hit deeper targets in Iran. Now, this next video sheds more light on the topic. Take a look.
Some of America's most powerful bombers have now reportedly landed in the UK, signaling a possible expansion of the conflict in West Asia. These aircraft were designed during the Cold War to strike even the most heavily defended of targets. And now they could be preparing for missions against Iran's underground military infrastructure. From bunker-busting explosives to stealth bombers, Washington appears to be positioning some of its most destructive conventional weapons closer to the battlefield. Here's our report.
During the Cold War, the U.S. built weapons meant to crack open the Soviet Union's deepest bunkers. Decades later, that same logic appears to make a comeback. Washington is now reportedly moving bombers with bunker buster capability to its base in the United Kingdom. When the war first began, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer refused Washington permission to use British bases for strikes against Iran. A few days later, he changed his stand. He confirmed that the UK had approved a US request to use British bases for what he called the defensive purpose. The decision came after an Iranian drone struck a British military base in Cyprus. Now, some of America's most powerful aircraft are reportedly in play. The United States operates 3 long-range strategic bombers developed during the Cold War. the Rockwell B-1B Lancer, the Northrop B-2 Spirit, and the Boeing B-52 Stratofortress. Reports suggest all three have been deployed as part of Operation Epic Fury. Each aircraft plays a different role. The B-1B Lancer is America's fastest heavy bomber. It was originally designed as a Cold War supersonic nuclear penetrator. It can reach speeds of about 1,500 kilometers per hour and carry a staggering payload of roughly 34,000 kilograms of bombs. It was built to fly extremely low to the ground, slipping under radar while using jamming systems to confuse enemy defenses. Its job is simple: punch deep into hostile territory and destroy hardened targets. Then there is the B-2 Spirit. It can fly nearly 11,000 kilometers without refueling, and it can carry around 18,000 kilograms of weapons. It is one of the most advanced aircraft ever built. Its flying wing design and radar-absorbing materials make it extraordinarily difficult to detect, and it uses advanced GPS-guided and smart bombs to hit targets with high accuracy. And finally, the B-52 Stratofortress, the veteran of the trio. This 8-engine bomber remains one of the most versatile weapons platforms in the U.S. arsenal. It can fly for 14,000 kilometers without refueling and hit a maximum speed of 1,000 kilometers per hour. It is capable of carrying over 31,000 kilograms of bombs and missiles. The bomber is equipped with modern navigation, targeting, and electronic warfare systems. It is clear that these bunker busters are being prepared for strikes on Iran. But President Trump claims that there is nothing left to be targeted in the country. So what exactly is Washington's game plan? Iran is known for its massive underground missile cities. Military planners say these bunker busters could be used to target this. These massive tunnel complexes store ballistic missiles and drones. Other potential targets include long-range weapons factories, hardened command bunkers, nuclear-related facilities, and large storage depots holding missiles and drones. These bunker busters may not destroy entire facilities, but they could block tunnel entrances and access points, trapping missiles underground before they can be launched. So America's most powerful bombers are now reportedly within striking distance of Iran. They are armed with weapons designed to break open the hardest bunkers on Earth. Whether they will actually be used remains uncertain, but their presence alone is a signal Tehran can no longer ignore.
Yeah, you kind of wonder if the countries that are on the receiving end of this conflict is kind of getting a little anxious when they see the United States bringing out these big boys, because when these types of bombers come out, they're bringing some serious firepower with them.
Right, and if these moves are a key or a prelude to the next moves that the U.S. will take over there in Iran, you can see that something serious is about ready to go down.
Yeah, right now they're talking mainly conventional, but these same bombers can easily be equipped with nuclear warheads.
Well, if you'd like to find out more about these stories, contact the House of Yahweh, and when you do, don't forget to request your free copy of the monthly newsletter and the Prophetic Word magazine. Here's how.
To contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at the House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. You can visit them on any of their websites by going to Yahweh.com, YisraelHawkins.com, or Yahweh'sBranch.com. You can also visit our website by going to YPN News.com. You can email the House of Yahweh at info@yahweh.com, and for all international calls, please dial the number on your screen. And of course, the Yisrael Says and Ask Yisrael programs are available to aid you in your study and understanding of the Scriptures, and you can find those by going to YisraelSays.com and AskYisrael.com. Well, don't go anywhere, because up next is another classic sermon by Yisrael Hawkins. For all those here at YPN News, I'm Katan Alexander.
And I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
Thank you for watching.